Day 1 rings. It's Christmas. It's 1981. I am not yet born, and yet I am very much alive. I let my mother know this on a regular basis in a variety of ways. Right now I'm wriggling and twisting and making myself comfortable on her bladder. She, not happy by my movement, is clenching her muscles and running up the stairs, letting out a frustrated whine as her fingers forget how to unbutton buttons. When she returns, she sits in the armchair watching my father prepare Christmas dinner. The smell of the meat roasting makes her feel a bit nauseous, so she sits at a safe distance from the kitchen, close enough to keep an eye on my father, just in case he causes irreversible damage on a similar scale to his exploits 8 months ago, but far enough away to avoid vomiting all over the floor. Sally, our border collie, cross Labrador, cross retriever, cross I don't know what else, sits at her feet taking care of us. The low growl from her stomach reverberates through my mother's feet, up her legs and into her lower torso. I can hear everything. Her tail flaps slowly, not really in any sort of rhythm. She just wants to let us know she's there. She's changed, my mother remarks, all because of you. She strokes my head and smiles. She never used to be this calm, she continues, especially if there was a chance of food falling on the floor. My father accidentally knocks some potato peelings off the worktop, and as they float down, Sally lifts her head, but doesn't move from my mother's feet. I remember, my father laughs, when she would have preempted the falling food, and would have been sitting at my feet with her mouth open to catch it. My father walks over to us, and kisses my mother on the head. Sally gives a bark of permission. He asks my mother if she wants a drink, and I'm thirsty, so I know she must want one too. He brings her lemonade in a china teacup. When she's not drinking from it, she stores the cup in a cupboard on its own, away from all other drinking vessels, to avoid cross-contamination from the glass and the plastic and the earthenware. She takes a sip, sending the cool liquid straight into me. It bubbles and she burps. I'm used to this. She gets indigestion and trapped wind all the time. It makes her body jiggle. She watches my father as he uses every pot and pan and utensil to prepare the dinner. He knows it's pretty pointless, as it will only be him and Sally enjoying the meal. But it's Christmas, and it's tradition, and it must be done. Christmas songs are playing in the background. My mother sings along even though she doesn't always know the words. She's dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the one she used to know. She leans forward to look out of the window, momentarily squashing me. It's okay, I'm used to it. But it's a small price to pay in exchange for this snugly warm womb. I never want to leave. It doesn't look like it's going to snow this year, she tells my father. The sky is grey and the rain splatters heavily on the ground. My father shakes his head. No, he says, it doesn't. My mother closes her eyes and lays her head back. She thinks of her childhood, one specific Christmas when it did snow. It was snowing as she woke up. The world was different, even just for a moment. She thinks about opening her presents. Her brothers are being boisterous, knocking everyone and everything out of the way, but she sits on her own with 2 parcels at her feet. Tiny flakes of snow are still falling. She watches them, hoping that it will last forever. What did Father Christmas bring you? Asks her mother. My mother rips open the coloured paper to reveal a pair of slippers and an umbrella. She can't breathe. She can't speak. If she could bottle this very moment, she would, so that she could keep it forever and never leave this glimpse of pure happiness. Her feet can't find the inside of her new slippers fast enough. The material is warm and soft, so warm and soft. She skips to the back door and flings it open with enough force to throw it off its hinges. She steps outside into the cold mid-morning and shoots a puff of air through her lips. I'm smoking, she says to herself. She pushes open her umbrella and clicks it into place. She dances and twirls and spins in the snow. She's a dancer, she's a fairy, she's alive. My father asks my mother how she's feeling. She tells him that she's feeling okay, just a bit tired and uncomfortable. She fidgets and winces. She's not sleeping well at the moment. She can't sleep when she's too hot, and even though it's winter, she's too hot. And when she can't sleep, I can't sleep. My father smiles at her and she smiles back, but inside her head she curses him for getting her into this situation. They think I'm a boy. They haven't decided on a name for me yet, but my initials will be ACW, after my father's father. Little do they know that they will have to come up with a girl's name in a month's time. I'm hungry. My mother knows this. Dinner will be a while. My father is still preparing the vegetables. He's very methodical. He's peeling the onions for my mother's dinner. She can't stomach much at the moment, but she manages to hold down liver and onions, so that's what we'll be having. I don't really like it, but I can't complain. While she waits for the dinner to cook, she eats a chocolate bar and wanders around the house in the hope that the pain in her back will ease. It doesn't. My father finishes the preparation and leaves everything to cook. He makes a cup of coffee and takes it into the living room. She finds my mother lying on her side on the settee with Sally lying on the floor next to the settee. My father approaches and Sally releases a protective growl. My mother sits up and enjoys the smell of coffee that my father brings in with him. He walks over to the tree and pulls out a small package from beneath the branches and passes it to my mother. She doesn't want to take it. She just wants to sleep and to feel comfortable, but she can see he really wants her to have it. She reaches her hand forward and takes the package. All she wants for Christmas is to not be pregnant anymore, but she knows that won't be underneath the wrapping paper. She struggles to pull the paper away from the gift. My father uses more tape than necessary when wrapping. A pair of earrings is hiding inside a little blue box. 2 golden loops, unfussy, demure, subtle. She can only wear gold. Other materials turn her ears green. She thanks him, and she really is grateful, but she doesn't have the energy to be more enthusiastic. She apologises for not getting him a gift. He tells her that he wasn't expecting anything. She had wanted to knit him an argyle jumper, but she found it difficult to sit still for too long. She'll do it after I'm born. Try to have a sleep, he tells her, before dinner. She tries to sleep, but comfort eludes her. Grubble up, my father shouts from the kitchen. Only Sally is roused by his voice. He dishes up their dinner and wakes my mother. They sit at the table and pull their crackers. My father calls them bonbons. They read their jokes and laugh. My mother doesn't laugh too much, just in case she needs to run upstairs again. They unfold their tissue paper hats and perch them on their heads. My mother will wear hers while eating dinner. My father will wear his all day. My father's plate is overflowing, and my mother's is quite bare, and yet she can't eat it all. I don't mind. She pushes the onions around in the gravy while my father slurps his turkey up like it's his last meal. She wants it to be over. She drags herself into the living room and turns on the television. It slowly flickers to life. She's missed the first 10 minutes of Top of the Pops. She plonks herself down in the armchair. David Kidd Jensen is wearing a red jacket with the sleeves rolled up. That's not very wintry. My mother closes her eyes. She sways her head and lifts her arms with a "This means nothing to me, oh Vienna." My father laughs from the other room. He comes in the living room to discover that there's a guy that works down the chip shop that swears he's Elvis. He shakes his hips to the rock and roll rhythm. He leans over to take my mother's hand to dance, but she's sleeping. She's snoring so loudly that I can barely hear what Adamant is saying. When she wakes up, it's dark. Sally has fallen asleep on her feet. My mother has got pins and needles in her leg. It tickles me, but it hurts her. She pulls herself to stand, and holding on to the back of the armchair, she kicks her leg out to the side and flicks her foot backwards and forwards. Sally takes her place by the front door. She barks to be taken out for a walk. My mother doesn't want to go. She just wants to not be pregnant anymore. Little does she know that she'll be pregnant for longer than she expected. Little does she know that I'll be late. My father walks in wearing wellies, a heavy black coat and a blue hat that my mother knitted for him years ago. He clips Sally's lead to her collar. She doesn't want to leave my mother. My mother stands up and walks her husband and their dog to the door. She watches them walk through the gate and into the bleak midwinter night. We lean against the door frame, letting the air cool us down. My mother shuts the door and walks back into the living room. She turns on the Christmas tree lights and sits in the darkness, gazing at the multicoloured candles. She forgets about me for a second, but I don't mind.